We live now. We on Facebook. Let's get it. Okay. All right. Today is March 28th, 2026. Okay. That's March 28th, 2026. Um, I'm your host, King Cecil, and this is the Bible Study with King Cecil podcast. Today is also a special day because it's my birthday. Um, and I'm currently in another country as we speak. Um, you know, thanks to God, blessing me and with abundance to travel the world and see different things. Um, I say that to say this, let's see. Hold on, let me just make sure I got this on. It's live. Okay, cool. There we go. My boy T, man. Ty, what's going on, man? I'm glad you're here on a Saturday, man. It's Saturday, it's almost over, but the Chicas is everywhere, of course. They always everywhere. Let's not act like, they ain't Chicas here. But yeah, no, let me just say that you know, a lot of people, what I'm saying. Oh, by the way, this is the 20th episode, so let's throw that out there too. 20th episode. We 28 weeks in of live recordings of this podcast where we Bible study, we talk about the Bible, we read it and we understand it. But today is a special day because I said, you know what, I'm gonna freestyle today. I'm not gonna do what I normally do, which is, just go over scriptures only. I'm gonna tell my own testimony today. Yeah, my testimony is, you know, interesting because, at the end of the day, let's start where people that know me, what I'm saying, for real, they know C's, man. Hey, uh, I was a sinner. Let me throw that out there. I was a sinner, man. Um, yeah, I was a sinner. And, you know, not I'm not glorifying that at all or even making that light of that at all. I'm saying that because it's true. You know what I'm saying? Um, you know, before, God came in my life, I was wilding out. And I was hustling. I was, sleeping with a lot of chicks, a lot of females out here. You know what I'm saying? You know, I was, fighting, you know what I'm saying? Just all kinds of stuff, man. It's growing up, living on the east side of Buffalo sometimes, in Buffalo, New York, that's to be exact. A lot of times you don't really know the environment played a part. A lot of times, I think, into where or how I became who I am. Um, I don't think uh, I don't think that I would be who I am right now if it wasn't for the things I've seen and been through. But it made me stronger, and I'll tell you why. Because everybody has a testimony. We all, been through something or seen something or, what I'm saying, experienced things in life. Um, for me, I would say, yeah, the environment outside of the crib or the house definitely was, hectic. The house was great. My parents, they were great. I always talk about my parents, man. My parents are great. My mom and dad was great, man. But you know what? The world ain't great. The world is evil. The world is wicked. And when you go outside that door, when you go to school or you go, what I'm saying, into the real world, you gotta do real world stuff. You see crackheads out there in the streets. You got friends that's robbing, selling cars and shooting people and all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Robbing people and, you know, going to jail and it just seems like everybody is going to hell if you really understand like the 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 negative element of living in impoverished environments. And it wasn't that, we didn't have uh something. We just didn't have, a lot, but that was fine. We were okay. I'm saying my family was okay, even though we didn't have a lot. We still had love. We still had family. We still had, I'm saying, friends. We still had a lot of things. And financially, I'm saying we wasn't the worst on the block, but it wasn't the best either. So but money was never a thing that defined family. Money was never a thing that, made me better than anybody or somebody better than me. We all live in this world the same way we came in, we're gonna go out with this world by ourselves. Okay. From the womb to the casket. But today, I want to like, do a little freestyle. I want to talk about, how I became, what I'm saying, who I became. So like I said, I was hustling, I was doing things, in the streets, whatever kids might be, all that stuff, you can think of. Um, and with no type of remorse, no type of regret, no type of none of that stuff. Actually, yeah, I was a little wild, man. I was a little terrible. You know what I'm saying? I was a little terrible. You know what I mean? And looking back at it, of course, I'm mad at myself because I wish I knew better. I'm not a real person. Hey, you can't do nothing about the past, but I wish I did better. I wish I knew better at a younger age. You know what I'm saying? I wish I would have knew, been more focused at a younger age, instead of blowing all this money and doing all the stuff that I was doing at the time. Instead of focusing on businesses and family and love and everything like that, I need to focus on. I was running the streets, man, just like everybody else. Shoot, if it wasn't for condoms, I have about 30 kids out here in these streets. That's a true story. Because if I was raw dogging out here, just know I would have 30 kids because I can count on how many times my hand girl say, "Hey, you got a condom." So my point I'm trying to say is, and it's just being real, just telling my testimony, telling my story, because again, this is why we have stories. This is why we have you know testimonies and prophecies and things like that. This is why we talk about because humility is the key. You know what I'm saying? Before you can tell somebody else about something they doing, you gotta ask yourself what you doing. Or you can look at the log and you know what I'm saying, or the thorn in somebody else's eye. You can look at the log in your own, and that's a Bible scripture. We're gonna throw a lot of them out here today, but my overall point today is to talk about how I got here. So let's start from the beginning, right? When God, um, comes to you, for me at least, he threw clues, you know. And the name of the title discussion today is How I Became an Israelite. I didn't come an Israelite because I wanted to be. I didn't come an Israelite because I just happened to find some information that was so significant that said, "Oh, I'm this." I didn't do a DNA test, myself specifically. But there was one that was done, but I didn't do it specifically, but when my family members did it. But yeah, it was a lot of things that got me to this point. And we're gonna go over some of those things. Um, let's start with the first thing. The first thing is, you know, again, I grew up on the east side of Buffalo. That's the first thing. I moved to other cities. I lived in Michigan before, near Detroit. I also lived in Atlanta and a few other places, in Canada and other places around the world. Okay. Um, that's the first thing. A lot of my family members, my mom, my dad specifically, he was in the military before. He fought in the wars, two of them. You know what I'm saying? He was a soldier. So I got a military background in my family as well. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of my family was in the military, Marines, Army, you know what I'm saying, Navy, you name it. Yeah. Let's see, Air Force, you name it. So a lot of my friends are in the military as well. So I never been in the military literally. I am take GRTC. That don't mean I don't know about war. That don't mean I don't know about fighting or how to. It just means I just, what I'm saying, I haven't went to a school specifically for that. But the school I went to wasn't a school, it was a gladiator school. So Yeah, teach you how to make a shank out of toothpaste, a toothbrush. You know what I mean? Things like that. A razor blade, break a piece of glass off, turn to a. Anyway, the point I'm trying to say is everybody learns and goes through different things at different times. And for me, it didn't start off like that at all. I was, doing me. I was running around doing the most. I was out here, like I said, thought I was having fun, hanging around people that thought were my friends, doing things I shouldn't be doing, right? Wasn't living the godly life at all. Wasn't righteous at all, as far as my opinion. And I was living in sin, like many of us live in sin. I was partying on a Saturday and a Friday night in the clubs. You know what I'm saying? Taking shorty down left and right. You know what I'm saying? I was, what I mean? Hustling, weed, whatever, making money and doing all that stuff. And that was all into this year or last year in July when all that changed. And when God called me, he didn't just like come out just automatically out of the blue. He was dropping clues for years. He was letting me know, dropping little seeds here and there, here and there. And I didn't really pick up on the seeds at all because I was running around doing me. I wasn't thinking about, what I'm saying, the right way to do nothing. You know what I mean? I was thinking about making money, sleep with chicks, partying, traveling. That was it. Enjoying life. At least I thought it was. But that all came, and I'm gonna give you the brief version. It's too long to talk about in one episode. Let's get that straight. But I would say, for me, for me, what changed my life was the clues that he was dropping already. So he dropped the clues first, right? God, he showed me this. When my niece did a DNA test, so I checked that out. She sent it to me, or my brother sent it to me. When I got it, I looked at it, and when I looked at the test, I'm like, okay, West Africa. I was like West African, pretty much 90% almost. Like it was something like 80% or 70% African. Pretty much had about this much Irish, this much English, like 3% each, and then the rest of that was all black. But there's one part in there I didn't understand, and that one part that I didn't understand was the Iberian Peninsula. Okay, and the Iberian Peninsula is currently modern day Portugal and Spain. So if you know what Portugal and Spain is in Europe, that's what my DNA said I was from. Like 12% of that was that. And I said, wait a minute, you know, what who I know who's in Europe? You know what I mean? Who's Spanish in my family? That's what I first thought. Who was Spanish? You know what I mean? And that's why I'm in Dominican Republic right now. This is why I'm coming down to travel these Mexico and all these places. It's because they got Spanish in my family. That's why. Is that the tribe I'm from or something? You know? But it was what I didn't know that God knew, and those clues he dropped on me is what made me put the clues together when the time came when he actually did call me personally and talk to me. But before he did that, I had the clues already. So let me make that clear. The clues is already planted. The seeds already planted already. Over the years, it's planted. Many years, not just one or two, but many years. And many times in that time when I was doing the stuff I was doing, he saved my life. Many times. Many times God has directed me in the right path or saved me from getting shot or whatever it might have been, going to jail or whatever it might have been, he saved me from things. And I didn't know whether it was him or not at the time. Now I know it was him. Now I know he had a bigger purpose for me. But I didn't know back then that I had purpose. I thought that, you know what I'm saying, I was just, here to live on this earth because I didn't know if it was real or not. I just say, I believe there's a God, but I didn't know it was God. I didn't know 100% fact. You could, back then, you could say, man, hey, God is everywhere. You'd be like, okay, he probably was. Probably agree with you. I didn't know who he was, and didn't know his name. I heard many different names they said it was, but I always wanted to do my research on them names. People said, and see what was what and what was not. So, over time, what I mean, I definitely started reading the Bible, started learning things, and I also, read other Bibles. I read the Quran a little bit, a nice amount of it until we got to the part where, the whole pedophile stuff going on. I was reading it, I was like, I'm not really feeling that. How is she 9 years old? I can't rock with that. But not against nobody else, but just that was something that turned me off from that religious practice. You know what I'm saying? Way of life. Then, but I know people that are, Muslim and everything. I have no problem with them. That's what you do. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? I got no problem with the other brothers over there. That's what I'm saying. But I can't if the messenger is doing something that's not right, I can't rock with it. That's all I'm saying. And that goes for even the FOI and the whole thing what happened with, Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, and the whole thing happened with I would say Denzel. What happened with Malcolm X. Um, that thing too. Me seeing that made me say, I ain't checking that either. So I was in limbo, and in Christianity, it sounds good, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'm a Christian, you know what I mean? And I was raised a Christian, my family is Baptist, and I said, yeah, it sounds good, you know what I mean? That sounds like more like it, but then, people say, oh, am I living that way? No, I was living that way. It was super hard to live that way in my head because I was running around sinning. And, you know, regardless, many things has happened since then that have, changed my perspective on things, right? And the different things from Pentecostals and all the different denominations that come along with with religions and ways of life and the people that that worship what they worship. But and everybody has their path. And I'm not knocking anybody's path at the end of the day. I'm saying, what I was on before I was on anything. So I was like, I'm gonna be a truth seeker. You know what I'm saying? In my head, I'm just gonna look for the truth. Whatever the truth is at, that's where I'm gonna be at. That's where I was at first. You know what I'm saying? Like when I, first, came home, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going, you know what I'm saying? Guys, it gotta be a way out there. I didn't know, but I just felt like, shoot, if he want to, tell me something, he'd probably tell me something, talk to me, whatever one day. Maybe one day I'll find that hopefully I'm doing the right path, right? That's where I was at. I was lost. Let me make that key point that I was lost. Um, and when you're lost, when you're lost, you don't realize what you're doing and the grave mistakes you're making that can cost you your life. And everything out here, all sins, the wages of sin is death. So don't think any sin that you're doing cannot kill you or cannot cause you to die or be killed because it can. And for me, living in where I was living, yeah, I got cold calls with death many times, many times. Yeah, many times I had situations where I could have been set up. Somebody was, plotting. You know what I mean? Guns is drawn or whatever it might have been. Many situations where I could have did this, but I did that. I was like, I don't trust this situation. I don't trust this person. And ended up being alive and well right now where I am today with you now. So let's talk about the little details about how the glues drop. So the first clue, um, I had a first clue I had when I was locked up was my dad passing away. That was my first vision I ever had that I documented. I didn't know he passed away. My family didn't tell me. And I found out when I got out, you know, time later. And I wrote down the dream I had and I dated it because something told me write the dream down and date it. And I did that. And when I wrote the dream down and dated it, yeah, I uh I wrote the dream down and dated it. And fast forward, you know, a long time later, I ended up finding out that he died 2 weeks before my dream. So when I had my dream, it was 2 weeks since he passed, and I didn't know that. Um, so that was something I realized that I did have a vision, but this was before I got saved and knew God and did all the things I was doing. I was still out and running around doing what I was doing. So I didn't learn no lesson at that point, but I knew something was different because how would I know that? And nobody told me that. How would I be that close in accuracy when it's been months and months and months apart? You know? But yeah, I said it to say this, it was the clues that little seeds. I was one seed, and another seed was the Iberian Peninsula. I needed the DNA test, like I said, and I seen that the DNA test that she did, it said this place, and I didn't understand why it would say Iberian Peninsula instead of saying Spain or Portugal. But when I did my research on it later on, after finding out this stuff, I find out that, there's a reason why my DNA says Spain and Portugal, where I lived at, last or whatever. And the reason why it says that is because there were Jews and Israelites in Spain and Portugal and the Iberian Peninsula before it was that. Before there was the Spanish Inquisition in 1492 that kicked out the Moors and the Jews out of Europe into North Africa, Morocco, and then from Morocco down into West Africa. And then from there, my family was put in the slave trade and sent over to America. Somehow, some way, we got to America. Okay, from that point. So we knew who we were when we first got there. And that was with the help of, um, you know, the Muslims and other African groups like Ghana and Nigeria and other places that, that captured us, brought us, to America, helped usher in, giving us to, the Caucasian man and those ships that were funded by, Jewish merchants that brought us from Africa to America during the transatlantic slave trade. So that's how far my history went back. And I found that out because God showed me that. He gave me information. I didn't know that before. I just thought I was black. That's all I knew. I'm black. You know what I'm saying? I might have people from Africa. I don't know none of them. I don't speak the language, but I knew I probably came from Africa somewhere. I didn't know where though. Even though I've had some inclinations, things, telling me, yo, go here, go there, go to Ghana, go to, Nigeria. But I didn't think that enough. I thought just going there because I want to see what it's like. I don't know why I was going to want to go back there. I'm thinking like, but I didn't know if I was home or not. Kind of find out is in my DNA. So, and a lot of other African tribe, West African tribes. So all those things played a part in me seeing the information, the research, and putting it together and connecting the dots. And then last piece was the main piece, which is, God coming to me specifically and talking to me and saying, my son, and giving me information and telling me things that he want me to do. And that's what really overall got me to where I'm at now. You know, learning about God and studying and practicing and basically getting closer to him. That's what, why I changed my life and got rid of the nonsense that I was doing before, living in sin. And now I'm back, on the right path, where I need to be. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And he came to me, multiple times and let me know things and talk to me about things and show me things. And also the devil tried to tempt me and try to, financially ruin me and my business. And I seen that as well. He was upset. When God called me, he did a lot of things to try to hurt me financially and make me, give up and fall off. But I stayed strong. I didn't give up. I didn't give up at all. Um, so that's where I'm at now with things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, God has shown me, He's blessed me abundantly. He has, put me in the right path. He put right my family. He's making them great as well. He's blessed me with a great family and that's wise and are doing positive things. Even friends, from different walks of life. He's shown me, so much grace because I definitely need grace. I'm still out here, sometimes, and he gave me grace, because he understands, my heart. I think that's why he let me, what I'm saying, live this long, see this age. Man, it's my birthday today, or the day I was born, so say Earth Day, I'm gonna call it. But today is that day, the 28th of March. I'm Aries. Here's my story. So yeah, you know, just thinking about this, man, I couldn't be more thankful for all the blessings and things that he's done for me, health wise. I'm healthy, I'm in shape. Um, you know, I'm wiser. I'm eating better. I'm traveling. I'm still traveling, seeing the world. I'm traveling right now. Man, I'm in Dominican Republic right now. Okay, I'm still traveling, seeing the world. I'm still me, I'm still blessed. I'm still able to help my family and friends. I'm still able to teach people. I'm a teacher by my nature. I'm not a preacher, but I'm a teacher. I'm not an ordained minister, none of that stuff. I'm just a person that wants to learn about God, warrior God. I'm definitely a warrior. So let me make that clear. I ain't with none of them games. I've been a warrior before I even knew I was a warrior that on that level. So I've been that. Hard never pump no Kool-Aid. But, you know, and even though, people say fear God, yeah, I fear I don't want to go to hell. But at the same time, I love God. You know, I don't fear no man though. You know what I'm saying? Because only person can judge me, and that's God. And hopefully, I'm judged, fair and with love. Which I hope that's what I hope that my life, and my dedication to God is what saves me. It gives me them gates. So I'm gonna keep on grinding towards that goal. And the Bible says it's not just for me; it's for anybody who's watching to learn about God, to read with me if they want to read with me and learn about Him. My story again, like I said, I have evidence to back what I'm saying, historical and literal, from DNA to actual scriptural and my own personal accounts. Which you wouldn't know that, of course, but people that know me enough to know, how I am and you know what my character is. So, you know, this is not something I've been doing since I was a kid. I didn't come from a line of preachers. You know what I'm saying? I didn't come from a line of people that was in Bible study every day and went to church every 5 seconds. No, I was one of them kids. I did go to church when I was younger. Parents did take me to church now, but I wasn't, at a certain point, we didn't go as much, you know. Um, there's nothing wrong with churches. Church is a great place. Learning about God is always great. I just wish some of the time these preachers these days were more honest about what they're doing instead of just making about money and making about, prosperity more so than making about getting to the kingdom of heaven and things you have to do from charitable works and being a good person. I think that should be emphasized more than what is emphasized right now. But nevertheless, like I said, my story, I'm pretty sure it relate to a lot of people's stories, you know, and it's my birthday, so I wanted to start with my testimony, and talk about it. And I want to let that be known, because sometimes, hey, you know, it's good to let out, the past and things that, what I'm saying, people don't even know. I'm a very private person, so people don't even know most of my stuff in my life. They don't know nothing about it. They can think, they know me or they don't even know how to have. What I mean, they wasn't with me with a lot of stuff. Even people that I grew up with, they wasn't with me in Atlanta. They wasn't with me in Texas. They wasn't with me in Cali. They don't know. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't me in Miami. They don't know. They just know what they see on Facebook. Life people just see what they see on Facebook and they see what's on YouTube, or they see whatever they see, or they know you from. And that's why it says, even prophets, won't be loved in their own home, because, you know, you think you know somebody, or what area they're from, or what they, claim to be, or whatever it might be, you think you know them. And a lot of times you don't know them. You don't know that. You're not with that person 24 hours. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they do. You don't know what they've done. How many people you know that you actually know for real? Even your own family members you might not know. So that's important to start there. But what's more important is God knows everything. That's more important than anything. God knows everything. So you can try to hide or lie or do whatever he knows everything. He knows your good things you did. He knows the bad things you did. And all those things are written down in those scrolls. So at the end of time, everybody's going to be judged. The question is, will you make the cut? And hopefully you do. But as far as for me, I'm going to live my life according to the scriptures. I'm going to live my life how God intended me to live. And this is why I say it's important, because, why we have Bible study, and the reason why I even did Bible study in the first place, because I realized that most people don't actually read the Bible. I realized that most people are manipulated by a lot of these pastors, and that it's really real live synagogues of Satan out here. I realized that a lot of misinformation and, miscalculations and things of such of that nature, that you know, it's real easy to be fooled, to be confused, to be used and abused. And I say, I might as well, for my own family sake, make sure they know the word. So I'm gonna read it over with them. And then I say, you know what? Nah, that'd be too selfish to just do only my family and people that I know. Let me just put the word online. Let's just go over it together. Let's have Bible study together, live, virtual, in real time. Let's just read the book and see what it says, and make our own determinations based on what God said, and use that as the catalyst for information. Let's talk about the word, from actual the word, specifically from the word, and get the real information instead of what somebody tells you the information is supposed to mean. Because I can read. I was good in English class. I used to rap. I'm still a rapper. So I'm good with words. I'm a poet. I'm an artist. So for me, words is, I'm one of the illest poets out here when it comes down to poetry, and making sense of the words and using words in different ways. And that's what I do. So I'm a musician as well. I play real instruments, keyboards and drums, and you name it. So those things are things that my talents I'm good at. But God gives talents to everybody that needs talent, that he believes in, or he chooses to give talents to. And my talent is music. Now, I'm not looking for fame or music, but if it happens, it happens. But it'll be used and give glory all to God when I do. If I make it to that plateau, that level, that'll be the only focus. Is making sure that you know that God is real. Make sure you know that it matters what you do. And everybody has a date. And everybody, you know, will have a time to be judged, whether in this lifetime or the next. That really depends on you, right? Um, but let's go a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper, right? So, um, what is it like to be called? You know what I mean? You know, there's many people in the Bible that was called. Solomon was called by God. Jonah was called by God. David was called by God. Saul was called by God. You know what I mean? Paul was called by God. Peter was called by God. So everybody had a run in. It was more frequent back in the day, I believe, than now. But I believe it's more frequent to this day too, because God chooses who He wants to choose. You can't, you don't choose Him; He chooses you sometimes. And but when He does choose you, it depends what you want to do. If your mind is so far from the truth, from the Word of God, then and you're living a certain lifestyle, a certain way, not holding His statute, judgments, and commandments, you're lost. And you're lost doesn't mean He won't find you. He'll find you. You know, if you want to be found, all you can do is ask to be found. He'll find you. But see, people don't even want to ask. It's got so bad these days. People will say, I'm not even. I don't believe in none of that stuff. I got friends that I knew that were saying that, and I'm like, hold on, how can you say that? You really just believe you just came out of nowhere, living on the earth, and you got all this stuff here, all of this. You just got all this, and it just came out of nowhere. You just got lucky, huh? You just got a business, and you did what you're doing, and you're making money, and you hustled, and you didn't go to jail, or you didn't get caught by the feds. Nah, bro, ain't nobody that lucky. Ain't nobody that lucky. You work for either God or work for the devil. And hopefully work for God. Or hopefully God gives you grace. You know, um, like I said, for me, my calling, He came to me and talked to me. He came to talk to me when I was just getting over being out of the hospital, what I'm saying, for a medical condition, you know. And I was back to normal. I was fine at the time. And when that door shut, it wasn't less than 5 minutes later. They tapped me right on my forehead, right here. And right after that, they talking to me. That's what changed my life. That was the last straw. See, he gave me the clues before that, but I didn't know anything about the clue. I didn't put it together at that moment. He just gave me them so I can go back and research them. And when I researched them and went back and researched all the things that he gave me, all the clues he gave me, it made sense. A lot of things made sense. Like I know I'm not a preacher. I'm not from the tribe of Levi, or Levi, whatever you want to call it. I know I'm not that. You know what I mean? Before I was, talking to a lot of chicks. You know what I mean? You know, so I know, yeah, I wasn't a priest. Uh-uh. You know, I knew what I wasn't. I knew how to fight all the time, how to, what I'm saying, deal with a lot of nonsense. I knew that, growing up was rough. I knew. So why? Well, you say why? Well, why? Because you have to be trained. Just like anybody in the army. You go to the army, you have to be trained first. You don't just God don't want no weak man, weak people on his team. Let me tell you why He didn't want a weak person on his team. That's why you can't be weak messing with God. Let me tell you why you can't be weak. You can't be weak with God because God is strong. He don't want weak people on his team. If you're weak, you so weak you can't even praise him. You so weak you can't even acknowledge that he exists. You so weak that you let the devil influence you to think that, you know what I'm saying, what you're doing is all you. He ain't nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? You so weak that you can't turn down no pussy or no dick. Excuse my French. But we gonna keep it real today. You so weak that you can't get out of the relationship that he beating on you or that girl cheating on you. He don't want no weak person on his team. God don't want no weakness. He wants you to be strong. Now he knows you're going to be weak because the flesh is weak in itself. He knows that. But there's a difference between being a weak person and willingly submitting to evil. Willingly. And I don't mean physically strong, like you work out strong. I'm talking about mentally, in your heart, in your spirit. Is that weak? Can you say no to peer pressure to your friends? Can you say no? Because the time I didn't say no. There's a time I didn't. We're going to party. Oh, let's go. There's a time when, you know what I'm saying, there's fighting popping off. Let's go. There's a time when it's hustling. And let's get this money. Because that was my mentality at that time. But when I was a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And that's the difference. I put away the childish things. You can put me in a room full of bad women, beautiful, gorgeous, wouldn't care. You can put me in a room with a whole bunch of robbers and shooters. I wouldn't care. I go to the same strip clubs and not throw a dollar. I go in there and talk about God. I go in there and have a word. We're going to talk about God in here. I ain't thinking about sex. Want me to get hard for him. You understand? That's called self-control. More people need to practice self-control because that's the reason why a lot of y'all sinning out here. Because you don't got self-control. And I know because I didn't have self-control at one point in time. But now I got self-control. I control myself. I could be around anybody or anything. I could be with the crackheads on the street and the prostitutes. And guess what? I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to be a child of God. I'm going to still help those that need help. If I see a homeless person on the street need money, I'm here. You want some food? I'm going to give you the food. I'm going to feed the people. I ain't just going to give them money just to give them money. Like, no. It depends on what's going on. If you're hungry, I'm going to feed you. But I don't give you no money to buy no drugs. So you got to know what you're asking for. You know what I'm saying? Because the fool and his money would surely part if he just gave everything away. Okay? And money and everything, and all you're trying to build riches on earth, you're not. But you do need money in this world in order for you to survive, because that's what you're going to need to survive. Or you're going to build your own system where you have everything you need, you build yourself. I mean, you could do that too as well. But you got to pick a struggle. We all know this world's going to hand the wicked one. There's no question about it. The question is, what side you on? Are you on the good side or the bad side? Can you do good or you going to do evil? That's the question you got. That's the choice you got. You only got two. You got to make a pick. Pick a side. And this is where God comes in and say, pick a side. Who you with? You can't be on both sides. You can't be friends with the ops and be friends with me. No. You understand? You on God's side or you on the devil's side. You can't be in between. That's why I said you can't be weak. Because we person don't know what to choose. They confused. They lost. They like, I want to do this, but I want to be over here, but I want to do this over here. You can't do that. Yeah, we all gonna mess up. We all gonna sin. We gotta ask for forgiveness. God knows if we forgive, if you truly are asking for forgiveness and you truly mean it, I'm pretty sure God will forgive you. But if you're lying or you just saying that to say it because you think it's the right thing to say so you can get out of something, he knows that too, and he's not going to forgive you. It says that in the Bible. He knows your heart. If your heart is a lying heart, you will not be forgiven. It says that in black and white. See, this is why it's important to understand why you can't just be saying stuff. You can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna pray for on Sunday or Saturday. No, that's not how it works. You can't go and shake your butt on Friday and do all this wild stuff on Friday and sleep people out of wedlock and do all the crazy stuff, and they turn around and be like, oh yeah, okay, but I'm going to church on Saturday or Sunday. That's not how it works. And anybody telling you that's okay to do that is lying to you. God's the jealous God. He ain't playing no games with you, boy or girl. Some of y'all be thinking yeah, no, it's not a game. Your parents put you out the house. You coming too late and doing all that stuff you was trying you was doing. You think he won't do it, put you out the house and curse you too? It's happened to many of us. It happened to Deuteronomy 28. That's how we got to America. On them ships. For 400 years. 400. But guess what? If you don't know, read the story about Deuteronomy 28, you won't even know. They're talking about you, black people. We the only ones that been sold in slavery that never got nobody buying us out of slavery. We still in slavery. We still here. You think you're free? Because you can go to the store and buy food and get a car and get a house, get some land. You think you're free? You're not free. You're not free. You're not free. Only way you're gonna be free if you do what's right. Get like to God. Follow his commandments, statutes, and judgments. Hold yourself accountable. Take some accountability. Humble yourself. Realize that this world is just, you're made here to do things, but you're made in his image and his likeness. And you're made to learn and behave and follow a righteous path and live accordingly. And again, you know, you see where I'm at? I'm in the thick of it. But guess what? I had a great conversation with a brother today that was also from Israel as well. He knows where he's from. I asked him, I said, where you from? He said, California first. I said, no, no, no. Where were you from before that? He thought about it for a second. He looked at me and said, Israel. And we had a whole conversation about it. He had things that happened in his life that let him know who he really was. And I told him things that happened with my life. And we talked about it, and we had some of the similar stories, similar things that happened that we can't explain. A lot of things we can't explain. Okay? A lot of things we can't explain. One thing about God, his words will never fail you. His words will never be in void. It'll never not come true. If God tells you something, it's going to come true. He's not going to tell you something, it's going to happen, or show you something, and it don't come true. See, a lot of y'all think that it's not real because you think it's a mystery man in the sky. Ain't no mystery. He been talking to people for centuries, for thousands of years. He's been talking to people. He talked to your family members, your cousins, your brothers and sisters, your fathers, your mothers. He didn't talk to the answers in the Bible in different cultures. He definitely made himself known who he is. He definitely told you how to find him, how to reach him. He has done that so that you can get closer to him so he can save your soul and make sure you not only save your soul, but let you live the way you want to live in a respectable manner. Like God don't want you're not a prisoner. You're not a slave. You're his child. You're God's child. We are children of God. We're no more than our parents. You think you do, but you don't. He's our parent. He's our father. We have earthly father and we have the heavenly father. Okay? Please understand that. And he's our heavenly father, the father of all fathers, the father that gives you life and death, the father that gives you love and hate, the father that can give you abundance and poverty. He can bring peace or calamity. It means problems, always. So you choose the path that you want to be on by what you do. He gives you choices. You can go the green pill or the blue pill. The choice is yours. You choose wisely which you want the path to go. Now I chose my path. And it really didn't choose it because it really chose me. Because I truthfully wasn't choosing nothing at one point, but now I know who I am. It was revealed to me who I am. He showed me who I was in many different ways. Even told me who else somebody else is. Because he says in the Bible, you would know my people by their fruits, which is the works. You would know my people by how they move, how they act, what they do. So I don't need to know you personally to know if you're with God or not. I can tell what you do. I can tell how you treat people, what you say to them, how you act, what people say about you, whether or not you're with God or not. And if you're not with him, I can't deal with you. I'm not going to deal with you. I'm not going to play with you either. And see, this is the reason why I say it's important, okay? It's important to get close to him, to understand him, to learn about him. That's why I do Bible study, to learn about God, okay? You know? So that's what we're going to do today. Hey, you will give me birthday shots outs, you know what I mean? Um, so for all my people, man, that's watching this, understand, you know, I'm blessed now, and I'm happier than ever been because I know God is real and I know He loves me. I know that He found favor in me enough to come to me and talk to me directly. And maybe it was grace that He just, I'm gonna talk to this dude because he a fool. He said probably say, he probably said, you know what, I gotta come to him directly. I gotta come to him in person because if I just let him, try to throw them seeds ain't working, them little clues ain't working on him. He need to hear it one time for the 99 2000. He need to hear this directly. And I'm glad that he did. I'm glad that he has revealed himself to me and changed my life from being what it was to what it is now. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the people he put around me, my family members, my friends, my loved ones. You know, I'm so thankful for that because it could have went a different direction. I could have been dead a long time ago. Or stuff I was doing, I could have been up out of here many times. But you know, when you feel blessed like heaven, and where's the path to bail? So, the Bible saying gonna be long today. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I just want to go get some food and enjoy it. The Sabbath has just ended, not that long ago. So, and I'm in the DR and on my birthday, and I'm gonna enjoy myself. You know what I mean? This rest of the whole day, I was pretty much chilling. I ain't do nothing. Um, I was just in another city, and now I'm in this city. You know what I mean? I'm all around the country, and I got 3 more days. Okay, have fun in the sun. I'm gonna be on the beach. I'm gonna be on the boats. You're gonna see me everywhere. Okay, your boy. King Kong ain't got nothing on God. All right. So, I'm gonna leave this word with y'all one time and then we're gonna get up out of here. Okay? Because that's what we hear. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna talk about, let me see what we're gonna talk about today. Let's see. Um, let's talk about redemption. Hmm? Let's talk about redemption. Galatians 3, chapter 3, verse 13. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us, for it is written, curse everyone who hangs on a tree. Mm, 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 mm. Let me say that again, y'all. Galatians chapter 3, verse 13. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know who was hanging on trees like that besides black people. Slavery. I'm not saying other people didn't hang on trees, but that's kind of leaning towards us. But we ain't gonna, elaborate. I know other people have hung on trees and been hung as well, but I don't know if they've been hung as at the rate we were. So just throw that out there. You know, um, we talking about redemption. Today's gonna be talking about redemption, being redeemed. So yeah, let's do Deuteronomy 7, chapter 7, verse 8. But because the Lord loves you, and because he would keep the oath which he swore to your fathers, the Lord has brought you up out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Okay? Just like God redeemed the Israelites, the Hebrews out of Egypt, He will redeem us out of America, out of the grips and holds of America. He will come and bring us and save us and give us redemption out of the hands of the wicked Babylonian new state of Babylon, which is called America. Let me read that again. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 8. But because the Lord loves you, I know He loves me. What about you? Can I get an amen? But because the Lord loves you, and because He would keep the oath which He swore to your fathers, the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Deuteronomy 9, chapter 26. Therefore I prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord God, do not destroy your people, your inheritance, whom you have redeemed through your greatness, whom you have brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Please don't destroy us. Please don't. Your people, we love you. And we're your inheritance. We are children. And you redeemed us through your greatness. So please, oh Lord God, do not destroy your people. Okay? Deuteronomy 15, chapter 15. Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 15. You should remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore, I command you this thing today. You should remember. Don't forget. You don't forget, 9/11 or the Holocaust, the Europeans, they don't forget none of that stuff. Don't forget slavery. Remember, people. Remember. Don't forget slavery. Mm-mm. Don't forget. Oh man, I forgot. I got this on. Let me take this off. Let me take this off. Because when you're talking about God, He want to see your glory. He want to see your crown. Deuteronomy 15, verse 15. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore, I command you this thing today. So He's saying, don't forget. First Kings 1:29. And the king took an oath and said, as the Lord lives, who has redeemed my life from every distress. That was Solomon right there talking. Um, 2 Samuel, this last one right here. 2 Samuel, verse 7, chapter 7, verse 23. And who is like your people, like Israel, the one nation on earth whom God went to redeem for himself as his people, to make for himself a name, and to do for yourself great and awesome deeds for your land, before your people, whom you redeemed for yourself from Egypt, the nations and their gods. There's the internet note right there. And who is like your people? Nobody's like us. Nobody's like God's people. Nobody. Nobody's like God's people. Who was like your people? Like Israel. Like the one nation on earth whom God went to redeem himself as his people, to make for himself a name, and to do for yourself great and awesome deeds for your land, before your people whom you redeemed for yourself from Egypt, the nations and their gods. We don't worship many gods. There's only one true God. And Jesus tell you that. He tell you, worship the Father in heaven. Don't worship me, worship the Father in heaven. As divine as he is, he knows that there's only one God. That's the Father of heaven and earth. All right. With that being said, that concludes the Bible study, man, today. And like I said, redemption. I was redeemed. I've been redeemed. If you look any word that would justify my life at this point right now, there's only one: redemption. Redemption. That's the word I would say would explain my life, explain me. I've been redeemed. So redemption. And until you're redeemed, until you are born again, you will not see the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? Until you change your life and turn your life over to God and follow what Christ said and do the right thing in life and be a good person and do what God needs you to do, whatever that might be. You know the answer is to that. So change your life. You know what I'm saying? Get right with God. Please. For your own sake. For your own sake. Change your life. Don't wait till it's too late. Because we ain't got forever. We ain't got all the time in the world. We don't have all the time in the world to wait to find God, to come to God. Okay? Once you know who God is, and once you believe he is, then you need to live accordingly. Because if you don't, guess what? Ain't no excuses for you at that point. You know? Like Jesus is like our lawyer. He gonna try to defend you as much as possible, but there's only so much he can do if you keep on acting up. They gonna be like, man, listen, you don't have a lawyer be like, man, hey, I don't know if I can even get you off of this stuff because this is a lot. You kept look at this right here. You see that? You could have when you did this. Why you do that right there? You could have did this. Why? And that's because the flesh is weak. But with God, it's strong. God gives you strength. Use his strength and let go of the weaknesses. Let go of the insecurities. Let go of the temptations. Fight against those. and watch how your life changes. Watch how God comes in your life and change your life and make it better. Watch how you get everything you want in life. You know what I'm saying? You get abundance. Watch how you can travel and do things and make money and enjoy life and take care of your family and not deal with the nonsense in the world. Watch how God works in your life when you let him in your life. When you trust him and you say, God, I'm 100% for you. I'm gonna ride or die for you. I'm gonna follow the path that you want me to be on. I'm gonna adhere to the Sabbath. I'm not gonna be doing all the stuff that I should be doing. I should be resting on that day. I should be worshiping on that day because that's the day you made for me. You gave me this day specifically for that purpose. Yeah. With that being said, this concludes the Bible study for today. Bible study with KingCzol podcast, episode 28. Okay, we're 28 weeks in of episodes. 28 weeks in. That's half a year. A little over half a year. It's 52 weeks in a year. And we got more time to go. But we never gonna stop. With that being said, love y'all. I'm gonna go enjoy my birthday now and what I'm saying, have me some wine, drink some wine for Jesus, some Jesus juice. My brother, you know what I'm saying, that gave his life so we can get salvation. You know what I mean? His divine blood is what saves us. You know, they got rid of the law of man law, and God's law. Got us on the right path. So shout out to Jesus. Shout out to my brother, man. It's also, what Easter almost and everything else, around this time. So shout out to, shout out to, everybody, man. Hope you're driving safe. Hope you're being safe out there. Hope you're not getting any trouble or anything like that. Hopefully you guys are hopefully you guys are doing right. Don't do nothing too crazy tonight or this weekend. I know I'm not. Because of good food and just relax. Have good conversations in this country. We call it Dominican Republic. Let's see. Yeah, and hopefully I see you guys again next week, next Saturday. We can talk more about God and Bible study. But this is a quick Bible study about redemption, and you know, go look up those topics we talked about today about redemption, and this is my story. Um, I'm just thankful you guys are coming and watching it if you are watching it, and yeah, you see the place, like it, it's pretty nice, right? Um, got a pool table here and everything. It's pretty nice over here, man. So I just want to say that, man, this is it's a blessing. I can even give you a chance to do stuff like this right here. So I'm happy. One love, peace to the Middle East, okay, and a polo fleece, and yeah, you ask me what I'm doing. I'm on live talking about God and my life and how God has worked in my life. What we doing? How about y'all come on here and join me? You know what I'm saying? Sit up, gang. Come get this word. Come get this word. But yeah, so with that being said, let me get outside, man, and what I'm saying, and then walk around and get some exercise and stuff. I don't get enough exercise as it is. I'm trying to lose some weight, what I mean, get more ready for our warrior mode, what I'm saying, as far as in health wise, what I'm saying. I gotta stay, what I'm saying, stay in shape and stay, what I'm saying, stay strong, not just physically but mentally as well, what I'm saying, and spiritually. So that's what we're doing. All 2026 and beyond. But yeah, this is the Kings of the Bible Study podcast. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. What's next week gonna be? April, what is it? Next week is April 4th. Next week, April 4th is when we will do next Bible study. So I will see you guys then. All right. Peace and one love.